Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ladislav, and I work as a Chief Technology and Product Officer in the Nangu TV company. And I'm also the first person on the world who baked the campaign of the Daniel. So big thumbs up. I hope that he will make it to meet Elon, and it makes a lot of me. It was a great talk, really, one of the best. A little bit about the company where I'm working. Well, we are on the market since 2004, and we're a size around 70 people, which is pretty interesting because we are doing end-to-end solution for video services. Most probably no one ever heard about Nangu TV, I guess, but definitely you know us through our partners, and most probably there are some people who has us at home even, because we are working with the big telco operators like Orange, O2, T-Mobile, and we're doing the video services for them. So O2 TV, T-Mobile TV, or Orange TV, they're our product, and basically we're doing everything since the point that they're bringing the signal, the video signal. We take care about everything. So the delivery through the network, the backend services, and front-end applications in all platforms. We're also doing in Czech Republic the EVC Lani project with O2 together. So most probably you know it as well if you are Czech. And in Czech Republic we also hold the record of the streamed data in 1 second. It's around 600 gigabits, even more. Usually we're putting this record every year farther when there is some hockey in the TV, because Czech people, they're crazy about hockey, and we cannot sleep a whole week because of that. So thank you for that. We are based in the Karlín, in the new building Butterfly there. Actually, it's like 50 meters from the previous venue where we've been yesterday and day before yesterday. And because this is the Reactive conference, we'll speak about the front-end applications. And when you're doing the video, you understand that you have to support all platforms what there are on the market. So we are doing, of course, the mobile phone, tablets, the web, the desktop applications, and of course the televisions applications, and there is so many platforms what we have to support. For that reason, we did 2.5 years ago, we've been basically really early adopters of GraphQL, so all our backend API is on GraphQL. And we write everything in the React, and we have the shared monorepo for that. So we have one code to support all these platforms. Basically, we're supporting every platform what exists, and if we don't now, we will in half year, I guess, because there are really big demands. Today we'll speak about television, because I wanted to make it a little bit more. We'll still not speak just about phones and the web. So this small, it likes like a hockey puck. There are the set-top boxes, which will make your life a little bit crazier than ever before. So let's speak a little bit about television. Like, what is the television environment? How does it look like in these times? Well, it has some pros and cons, for sure. The good thing, you don't need to think about responsive designs. It's for years and years. It has the same aspect ratio, so you can make your life really easier with not thinking about this. This is one of not so many things as a benefit. After, there is no how to control these applications. There is no cursor or the touch screen. So you have to think damn it, but how I should control it. So in the television environment, you have always one selected item in the UI, and basically everything how you're controlling the television, it's the 4 arrows, like left, right, up, and down, and OK and back button. There are some shortcuts in this old TV remotes, like their menu buttons, program guide buttons, and this kind of stuff. So it's just more like shortcuts, but all application you have to be able to control it with 6 buttons, which is also pretty interesting, and you have to think about it. Another thing is that this is the environment of no standards, and this is actually not true. There is so many standards in this environment, and they're so wrongly implemented and designed that basically it's like that there is no standard. And this is especially about the platforms like HbbTV, you know, this television which you're streaming through you're broadcasting it through the terrestrial network, and it's running in every television with some supports. So there is really, you have to think that there is no standards. What is worse, there is no performance. You're working in the devices, like all the set-top boxes, for example, what we support, or all these televisions. When you even buying it as a new product, it has 3 years of development, and most probably even longer. So even when it's going to the production, it already contains the web browser, which is 7 years old, you know, and don't worry, they will never update it. So you will need to support it another 5 years. So in this case, it's a really big pressure for optimizations, and you have to make it really clever way. And you have no space on your table, so really often you will feel like in the electro shop because you always like putting the TV from and on the table. So your working table is really like you don't know if you have colleagues at job which are sitting behind. And sometimes it looks like that.
But LCDs are better for games. Right. But CRTs have true slacks. They don't want a really crisp contrast ratio. The CRT's deep pixel cell structure produces a resolution you just can't match with an LCD. I'll take the CRT.
Yeah. But it's a lot of fun. Don't take me wrong. And it's a huge responsibility because you are working on the applications which people has in the living rooms, and when they come from the job they want to rest and they want to make the seamless as much as possible. They want to find the content what they want to watch, so you have to like design the really clever stuff how to give them the content from so many of the content which is there, because this is not about live TV, this is about video on demand, so many of it, and you have to like a really smart way and easy way to give it to the end customers. Plus also the television applications usually they runs for days. It's not like you're taking the mobile application, it's starting, and in 2 minutes it's dead, you know. So if you have some leaks, some memory leaks or something, oh, it will catch you. So you have to be really careful and responsible about that as well. And so what kind of television platforms we have? Well, there is really many, and they're really different. For the start, we have tvOS, right? The Apple TV native platform. We have Android TV. And the thing starting to be more interesting, we have Tizen OS for the Samsung televisions. We have webOS, previously called Palm, for the LG televisions. We have the Linux OS, where it's usually some kind of browser which you never heard about before. It's usually in this third-party devices, the set-top boxes and stuff. And you have the HBB TV. HBB TV is amazing standard. It's really allowing you to, without any platform specific, to ship your applications through the normal broadcasting. It can be from satellite and so on, and basically make from normal television smart television, which is running your HTML5 application, and you can stream the video over it, and so on and so on. The thing what will no one tell you on the beginning, that everyone who's implementing this standard is doing it terribly, and you can adapt it. You will call some JavaScript function, normal JavaScript function, and it will restart the television and this kind of stuff. So again, you have to be super careful about what you're shipping to production. Well, and what about the React, right? I said on the beginning that we have all code we have written in React. We pushed React even to all the devices, and thanks to it, we have really the shared monorepo, shared code with another devices like mobile applications. So when we're writing the feature once, we basically have it everywhere. Of course, you're changing always like the controlling, the visual elements, but the core of the product is there only once. And so Reactive Television, it's defined by two main platforms. You have native platforms as Apple TV and Android TV with React Native, and you have web-based platform. Usually there is really some kind of Chromium inside or WebKit implemented. What is really good news is that React Native has built-in support for Apple TV and Android TV. Apple TV is there for a longer time, like version 0.44, I guess. And Android is kind of recently, and it's still not, I would not recommend it maybe to use it even to production as is. It has a lot of limitations, but what is cool, you will use just React Native in it, and you are up and go, like you are ready to go. And you have some limitations like focus management. There is some built-in support for what items are selected, and so when you're controlling it with the arrows, it's working, but it's not for any advanced stuff. And usually when you're doing the television applications, you want something a little bit more advanced, and it will catch you sooner or later. And also like list functionality. This is not stuff especially for like television, I would say, but it's more like in general, the lists are limited, and especially you need good performance, and we also would like to have something what is like multi-platform, right? Because we don't want to use some list components which are chosen just for the web or just for the native. So this talk will have some practical live coding about the lists and our components what we built. And one more library what I would mention, it's called React TV. It's still in like heavy development, but it's really good for the web-based television platforms. Currently, you can through it start really easily to support the LG televisions, and they're planning to support Samsung Tizens as well, and many others. So maybe in the future it can be really interesting topic. So let's see how it looks like. Let's dive deep a little bit. So when you're starting with React Native in it, you can mention that there is already another target for the television, for Apple TV. So what I will present to you right now, it will be on the Apple TV. So I have it somewhere here. Yeah, this is the default basically setup where you will go. What is cool, you have the developer menu on Command D, and it's even working with the controller from Apple TV, I guess, if it will hop in. Yeah. So you can pair your Apple TV remote controller with the simulator, and you basically have a really nice look and feel, really good for development. So I prepared a couple of the exercises, right? Because you are all tired, so we'll a little bit program. The first thing is the movie list, you know, because television, it's all the UI in television is basically made from the list. If you will watch on anything, it's just list under itself. Sometimes it's more complicated, and it's more or less is the same. How I said we are using GraphQL, and because I was so shocked that when some guy before asked, who knows GraphQL, almost all hands were down. So maybe let's see how is it. So GraphQL, it's basically the API. It's where you're using just one single endpoint for application. And the application defines what kind of data you want. So we have our movie in our API has the tags. Tags can be, for example, the genres like comedies and this kind of stuff. So I can really easily list the all tags, what we have, their names and the ID. And if I would decide that on some screen I need something more, I can say I need some code or yeah, something like this. It's also easy that we're using it for translation. So if I will use the CZ, I will get it in the Czech language. So this is also pretty handy. After, I would like to show you the example with the movies, where I'm taking one tag. This is, I think, the recommended. And I want to know the name of the movie, the original name, and the address, the URL for the portrait, like cover picture. How does it look after that? So we have the list. What is also cool, we have, when we're asking for the picture, I can show it here in the code. So let's start here, okay? This is the beginning of the applications. We have just definition of the Apollo client. We're using the React Apollo for our connection, and I can really strongly recommend it because the way how it's handled the client's cache, this is unbelievable, and it's saving so much of job. So we're just defining our endpoint and our genre component. Genre component is classic flat list. So what is another good news for you is that the flat list is also by default supported, and the touch highlight and touch opacity components are supported. So when you run this code, you can take your remote controller and you can control the elements. And it's even scrolling. So without any work, I just made normal flat list with normal touch table highlight, what I would write as completely the same code on the iOS or Android, and it's working. And if I press something on the log, you see that there is some name. Maybe you see, maybe it's too small. I don't know. It's there. So, but this is pretty similar, and you need more especially on television. So because usually the UI is a little bit more complicated. And if you're doing live TV, unfortunately, you will always have to design something like this. This is the electronic program guide, and basically it's working all the time the same. On the XX, you have the time, and on the XY, you have the channels. And between it, there are the elements, which are actually the programs, and it's telling you when is what in the television. In our way, it looks a little bit more progressive. We designed it a little bit different, but what is important about this is not how it looks like in the as a product, but if you imagine, if you, as you can see, every this channel is basically a list. It's a list where you can scroll there and back. And what is harder on this task to write the program guide, that usually we support the long time shift, for example, something like 30 days. It means that you can go 30 days back and play something, and it will play for you. It's still available content. And you can go to the future and also see what is there. So in this case, and also I would mention that there is this a number of the channels. It's, for example, like 180. If you're counting all the data, if you will take this huge matrix of the data, it can have, for example, 40 or 50 megabytes, you know, and of course you don't want to download it, store it in your memory. This will like kill everything. Like this kind of boxes, what I show, they don't even have 50 megabytes of memory, what you can use, you know, so you cannot do it. You have to make it smart. So on the beginning, what you want to like download data which are current for the user, and when he starts scrolling, you want to just fetch more, right? So let's see how we would do it if we'll use the flatlist component. So I program here one another example, which again, this has just the definition of the GraphQL API, and important is this component. There are some utils which I'm using for gets timestamp and this kind of stuff, unwrap data, because unfortunately our GraphQL API is not so beautiful as I would like to have. So we need making some like unwrapping. There is the definition of the query for GraphQL, where I'm asking for channels of one specific channel. I'm passing it the variables from and to as a timestamp. So I'm asking for some specific time frame in one channel, and I want to know the channel name, ID of the channel, and for every program I want to have the name, start timestamp, and timestamp. Right here, I'm on the beginning. The method gets timestamp. It's basically telling me plus minus from current. So I'm taking minus 4 hours and plus 4 hours from right now. And we have the classic query component from React Apollo, where I'm receiving the data when everything is loading, and I'm passing it to the flat list. When I will run this, it looks like that, right? Good list. It's scrolling by itself. But right now is the tricky part. I want to make some refetching of data. How you would make it, right? Like, this is not so hard. If you want to fetch the data on the end, you will just write something like on end. First, I will set up a little bit more smaller threshold. When it's asking for data, that will be more visible. And after, you will just write you'll pass to the props the callback, which is called when the end of the flat list is reached. And so let's ask for more data. So first of all, we have to set up these variables to change them. So we're asking for the future information. Let's ask for another 4 hours from the current end of the frame. And for refetching of more data, you're using the fetch more function, which is passed through from the query component from React Apollo, and it expecting new variables. Where is our channel, our from time, what we need, and until when we need it. If I'll make some mistake, shout, okay? Be my friend. And on the end, you need to pass their update query, which is again the callback, which is called when the data arrived. In this callback, there is previous results and object which contains fetch more result. If the new result is empty, you have to return. The previous results. This is kind of pity, because always for the flat list, the data will come back through the query component again, and it will be fit to the flat list data. So you have to assure that always you're returning all data what should be available in flat list, which is making you a little bit limitation, because you will always have to pass all data what was already drawn there, that it will not make any jump in the UI. And in this case, after that, you want to return the fetch more result. Unfortunately, we have to make some concatenating of the data from the previous, and this will not be so pretty, because we have to go a little bit inside of the structure, take the first channel and access the programs and concatenate it with the previous data, and with new data. Because it is expecting the data in the same format like the first query. This is something what is after possible to avoid, but currently we have to do it. So if I will save it, and luckily it will appear here, if I will go, it's still refetching the data on the end. and I can go to Hallelujah. Yeah, like still great, right? It's not so much job, couple lines of the codes, and I already have like one flat list which is fetching the data. But what you will do on the beginning, on the iOS there is method on refresh, which is not working how you want, because you always have to swipe a little bit more and after reload, like refetch some data and put it above. On iOS it's worked pretty good because they already implemented it, not so many versions before. They implemented it that it will not jump your UI, but usually, or so on another platforms or on the Android, if you'll do it and you will put another 10 programs on the top of the list, it will just jump down and the UI is not seamless. So this is something what we don't want. And how I mentioned before, there is another thing what we don't want, and it's we would like to use components which are multi-platform as much as possible, and especially if it's about the list. It's pretty complex, you know, this functionality, and we don't want to use some components on another platforms differently. For that reason, this is the library which I wrote like half a year ago. It's basically implementing the list about not to think about the list so much. It's completely multi-platform and multi-frameworks. Basically, the core is using just the vanilla JavaScript. And of course, right now it's implemented for the React, but it's really possible to just take it to different framework without any problem. It takes the concept of the virtualized list, but it's not standing where the lists are. It's thinking about completely like without limits area. And it's using the absolute positioning, which is great about that you have really no limitations there, and it's working on the old devices as well, and it's pretty fast. And it comes with the couple of the basic sets of the components, which is one is Infinity View, which is receiving the immutable snapshot of the layouted items, which it should render it. Infinity Scroll View, which is basically defining this snapshot for the Infinity View. And Infinity List is basically the Infinity Scroll View with the limitations in just one direction. How does it work in the practice? You have Infinity View, and it can be a really large canvas. It can be 20,000 pixels multiplied 20,000 pixels. And when it's receiving the snapshot, it's rendering these items, including in snapshot. And it doesn't matter where they are. They can be like anywhere. If you have the Infinity Scroll View, it's basically setting the viewport above that. And the viewport with some extra area that the UI will be seamless as possible. And it means that if you have this area, everything what is outside will disappear, and you will always render just what you want. And if it's Infinity List, it's just basically making some limitation above that, but it's still Infinity Scroll View. This thing works in React Native and React currently. And it's, for example, all the animations, you're not moving with every single element or something. You're moving with this Infinity View, and you're animating it natively. So you all the time have 60 FPS. That's what you want. So let's see how it will look like if I will change it. So I can dump this and use it for my Infinity List. On the beginning, we'll delete a lot. This is always fun. You go. So Infinity List. We'll need the reference for this list because we'll need to call some methods after it. So I will just save it to the property. It's much harder to program and speed than I thought. We have to say what kind of list type we want. Still so far the same like with the flat list. So we need to say, hey, I need a horizontal list. After, of course, render item, right? Pretty similar. And after, there is set of the methods which are pretty interesting because the Infinity List is not working like flat list that you have to give it to some data on the beginning. It's asking for everything when it needs. It keeps the data inside, and when these data are no need for it doesn't need for anymore, it will just dump them. And if you will scroll back, it will just ask again because you already have all this data stored in your Apollo cache. Why it should be in another array? Why it should be in another component? Like you spending the memory, which is expensive. So when it needs the data, the beginning the data, it's asking, hey, give me some data on the beginning, and it's passing you the request. Request is the basically method how you call the data back when you have them up and ready. Data on the beginning, they're ready immediately because they came from the query from the Apollo client. So I can just say, hey, I will send you my programs as is. So if I will use this, plus I need to change the render method because currently it's not using the same callback method as a flat list, and it stores the data a little bit deeper inside because there are another information like where is the component layouted, what is the x, y, and width and height of this component. So if you'll run it, and you will not make any mistake somewhere, which more things, because it's using the absolute positioning, you have to tell some more information to these items what you want to render. Of course, good thing would be to tell it the key, the same on the flat list. You can specify how far should be this element, and what is important, you have to say how big are these elements. Let's say something like this. So right now I have my elements, they are focusable, but mention that if I will go behind, it's not scrolling with me because it doesn't have this implemented flat list support for Apple TV as is. So I will have to make one more thing, and it's on press in, which is the callback when the highlight is the television highlight is on the element, and I have to just call this list scroll to item, and that it should be animated. So right now while I go, it's moving, right? Okay, this is the first part, the easy part. So let's do the refetching. There are another two methods, and it's request data after and the request data before. What is cool about this method is that you're receiving again this request, and the request can keep some additional information. And for example here, it will give me information about the last item on the list. So it will tell me, hey, give me data after this item. For that reason, I don't need to store anything inside of some helper properties, and it all knows the context. So you're living in the context on every function which is here. So we'll need to fetch more data, the same like before. We need some variables. We need some from, and we'll use the part, the last item, which is there, and its end time. And two, we'll use, say, 4 hours from the end of this item time. So if I will run it, and I would not make mistake, which I did. New result. Oh, yeah, sure. How is it? Update. Yeah, update query. It's good. Always forgetting. For that reason, it's not helping us. Update query, and you have to say basically that this data fetch more result, and we'll say just, hey, request, here is your data. So if I go, it's refetching the data and like unlimitedly. Well, we had it before as well, but so right now we have to just add the same request, and there is the difference that it's asking, hey, there are the data before, so on the beginning of the element, and it's working the same. We'll just need to update the time what we are asking. So basically this I can change to 2, use the start timestamp, and here I will just say I want a -4 hours from the start timestamp. If I'll take my controller, I can go right now back. Before, sorry? 2 from, yeah, sorry. Yeah, good, you're paying attention, good job. And you can go to all sites. You see that it's super fast. It's all the time, it has 60 FPS. And the cool thing is that this thing's running everywhere. It's completely multi-platform. So if we write one component like that, it's giving us the API what we didn't have before, what we need for seamless, basically customer user interface. And you can really put it anywhere where you want. So I would say, if I'm not mistaken, that that's it. So thank you for your time. Of course, we are hiring all the time, like everyone else. So if you want to work on the television, come to stop by. And if you want to know more about this library, just follow me on the Twitter or like check it on the GitHub, and we can of course have talk, especially with the beer. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we have a couple minutes left, so let's go through 3 or 4 questions. First off, a quizzical Aussie asks, which HBB TV versions do you support with this solution?
This is a great question. Actually, we're doing it much smarter way than just the supporting of the HBB TV version. We're supporting, I would say, all of them, but more like 1.2. This is some reasonable. But we have some special technology which is always checking the special device, and if the application was run on this device, it will give it go or give it some capabilities. Like there are some limitations. There are some limitations. For example, this device is slow because we already know that. We already measure it in the production. And it's, for example, hey, don't use some JavaScript function or don't use some CSS styling. And the app has to basically downgrade a little bit that it will still work in this kind of devices. So we're basically supporting all HBBT versions, but kind of different way.
All right, great. Next off, do you use Real TV to test the software? And which tests do you use?
Yeah, of course we use the real televisions. Most of it we have the partners for that because it would not fit our offices, everything. So we have special partners for different platforms who are testing for us because we just don't want to do it everywhere. And of course we're using some other testing, and we have our testing team. So of course we have to use especially the set-top boxes, you know, because this is our main business. So the set-top boxes we are testing internally, and more like, yeah.
Yeah, so you have the large stack of the set-top boxes on top of your desk.
On every table.
Yeah. All right. Thomas asks, how do you test changes done to core part of your code? Do you have automated tests for all of the supported platforms?
I'm just thinking if I should lie or if I should be honest. We are not so far with the automatic testing. Usually we are testing it with like a whole product end-to-end solution, you know. So we're not publishing our code like every week how we would like to, but we are doing it in some batch like half year, and it's going all together. So unfortunately, no. But when you're developing on different platforms, you know if someone messed something up, and usually you'll be punished for that. So basically, our best testers are the developers, because if you make a mistake, you will ruin another team, and they will hate you for that.
All right, we are running out of time, so maybe the last question. Do you use some good practices or cool features taken from, for example, Netflix?
Sure. Especially from the Netflix, a lot, I would say. This is a big inspiration for us. They're doing a little bit something different, and I would say that maybe we have the better product than them, like from the point of the UI and this kind of stuff. They doesn't seem like they care enough for that yet. They're more like about the content so far. But for example, there are talks about how the focus management should work in the televisions and everything. This is really inspirative, and of course we are inspired by them as well.
Yeah. Actually, since those are the last two, if you want to answer them, just feel free to go on.
The first one, I don't know what is it, so I will make it
right,
easy.
That's fast.
And the last one, you have the re-implement focus management per applications, or are the APIs available to help with the new TV? Well, the focus management, what we have, it's again completely made by us. We didn't publish it yet as an open source, as we would like to. But this is basically one library which you can use, anyone can use it, and it's especially made, again, like as a multi-platform, so you can use it in React and React Native, both of them.
All right.
Soon will be published, maybe. Follow the Twitter.
Okay, thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you for having me.